Hi guys, I'm Migliore, head of customer value at News UK. I've been working at News for the last 6 years in customer marketing in some way, which is branched out to digital transformation and product strategy. Basically, behind my title, I'm responsible for ARPU and churn for the Times and the Sunday Times, and also all of our related products. So basically that means that my teams look after customer marketing, retention, and value management. So making sure that customers engage with our editorial product, that they stay with us, and ultimately that they spend more money with us over time. Today, I want to talk about an AI project that we've been working on for the last 12 months and how it is driven by our business ideology, you could say. Before we get into that, though, this is selfish, but I just want to know. I want to get a sense of where you guys are at with AI in your organization. So, who's done something in AI? Raise your hand. Okay, nice. And who's started something? Okay, we're planning. And then what's AI? Okay, cool. Cool. Thanks for being honest. That's well done. Cool. So this talk is basically I'm going to talk a little bit about why we've turned to AI machine learning in the first place. And then talk a little bit about what we specifically did, and then talk about the impact of it. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll walk away with something you guys can take into your own businesses. Fingers crossed. I've had decent feedback in the past, so I'm hoping that it works. So why AI and machine learning? So basically, a little bit about the Times and Sunday Times. Hopefully you all know this because you're all subscribers, but if you're not, come see me after. The Times and Sunday Times, we have a distinguished and respected product. It's quality content. People trust us. We're authoritative. We have over 500,000 subscribers, actually over 560 now, of which more than half are digital. So it's a huge milestone for a business that basically 10 years ago was still a wholesaler. When we launched our paywall in 2010, we took money for the first time from people, and that was the first step on our journey towards becoming a customer-focused, data-driven business, which I would say we're coming closer to now. So in the last 24 months, we've delivered a 10 percentage point reduction in digital churn rates. And the way we've been able to do that is by activating our data, by harnessing the power of data to drive meaningful change for the front and bottom lines. When we launched our paywall in 2010, we set up a very classic retention operation, which for those of you who don't know is basically like a call center where people have to call in and are stopped or saved. I'm sure you all have had this experience with your mobile phone provider. Hopefully it wasn't resoundingly negative, although I think most of the time it can be. Because of this, we realized that saves weren't going to save us. As a business, we needed to be more proactive about how we use data, and actually, although we were saving, say, 50% of people, we actually needed to prevent those 50% of people from ever calling in the first place. And so we realized actually we need to start outside of the bill. We need to think outside of the box, as it were, and recognize that actually the first point of the customer experience starts long before the bill is ever received, and that we needed to be ethical and effective in our use of data in order to guide all of our decision making. So over time, we focused on building out, as best practice suggests, CRM programs, testing and learning, and we focused on data-driven segmentation to enable effective, relevant customer marketing. I do a whole 20-30 minute talk about that one bullet point, but that's not really what I'm talking about today. Basically, we realized that if we could invest in positive outcomes for customers, in behavioral marketing, in using our data to actually positively influence our customer behavior, that we saw a positive correlation with churn reduction. So what this is showing us is basically from left to right, the engagement of the TNL subscriber base, of the Times subscriber base. And the line that cuts across it is the relationship between engagement and churn. Basically, the more engaged you are, the less likely you are to leave us because the more value you're seeing in our product. And what's really interesting about this is that the colored boxes represent the length of time that a customer has been with us. And so it was actually quite a resounding discovery that actually tenure doesn't really matter, that it's actually behavior and habit that matters far greater than that. And so for us, we wanted to make sure that we're driving higher engagement because it means more opportunities for cross-sell and lower price sensitivity when it comes to the base price of the product. So, I mentioned we focused a lot on building out an infrastructure to manage customer behaviors. And basically what we found is we reached a point of diminishing marginal returns on our life cycle. We needed something to step change. And so I was thinking about what are we going to do about this? Because the targets weren't going away. And I'm sure many of you guys can relate to that. We had to do something to keep moving forwards. And so I thought, do you know what we need to do? We need to go back in time to the 1950s, where probably one of the only good things about that era was that individualized communication was normal, cheap, and easy to maintain. And as I'm a big believer in brands doing positive things for consumers. And I think when I cast my mind back to the 1950s in this kind of idealized view of what consumer relationships were like with businesses, I think of a corner shop. I think of mom and pa's newsstands, family owned, where the customer would know the person behind the counter, their name. You'd have a fruitful conversation about your kids and the economy or whatever, and the shopkeeper would have your order kind of all ready to go, and it would be a really positive experience, and you'd leave safe in the knowledge that that experience was broadly going to be the same the next week. Obviously, things have changed dramatically since the 1950s, right? And if I think about the modern business in which we operate, and in this case, it's the Times and Sunday Times, News UK, and News Corp. We're a massive organization that has to manage this very large group of people that we're never going to meet in person. So how do you do this? How do you drive these meaningful relationships with consumers? Because to go back to that telco example, right? You all have a relationship with your telco. It's just not very meaningful. It's not very fulfilling because it's very transactional. So I think the challenge for us was how can we go back to that time when we can be creating meaningful relationships at cost and at scale? A challenge which I think every one of us face. So that's where James comes in. That's where this AI that we've created helps us. Basically, James is a collaboration between ourselves and Twipe, and is part funded by the Google Digital News Innovation Fund. We envision James as a CRM decisioning engine that would sit across all aspects of our customer lifecycle and deliver better individualized customer experiences, so meaningful customer experiences, getting the right content to the right time, or getting the right content to the right people at the right time. And so not only actually meeting customer needs, but exceeding them and anticipating them at the same time. It would also be, we envisioned not only a decisioning engine that was driven by AI, but a capability that had machine learning, so something that would learn from its mistakes and victories, and constantly optimizing, which would of course drive operational efficiencies within the business. For any of you that work within a kind of customer marketing cross-functional team, or have a relationship with your marketing department, you'll know actually how difficult it is to take things to market. You go through this whole cycle of did that work? Why did it not work? Who were we talking to? What were we trying to say, and how did we say it? And how do we need to change in order to do that next time? So James would be the answer to all of those issues, and would be able to solve our operational problems in a more effective way, whilst also communicating with each of our customers on an individual level in a cost-effective way. So the idea behind this is this kind of ideology that we have, this idea that personalization is personal, which sounds super trite on the face of things. But actually think about what I'm saying. So personalization is personal. It's this idea that we put the customer at the heart of what we do, which I think a lot of companies say they do, but fail to do in real life. I think there's probably two companies I can think of off the top of my head that come close to doing it. Can anybody name one company that they think does it well? Yeah, Amazon is the one I was thinking of, but I'm not sure that they actually succeed all the time. Netflix is the other one. So for us, we wanted James to be anticipating customer needs, which for us is what drives meaningful relationships. It helps our subscribers and our readers find value in our product because we will never win on price. So it was playing, we envisioned it playing quite a significant role within our customer marketing infrastructure and within our broader strategy. So hopefully that was a good overview, a very, very quick overview about why we've done what we've done. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we actually did. So first, we built some foundational algorithms that we felt like were key drivers of product engagement. So things like, when do we need to contact you? What are we going to tell you about? How are we presenting the information? And how frequently are we going to tell you that message? Which I think are probably the foundations of all good communication, right? Know who you're talking to, know what you're going to say, know how you're going to say it. Great advice for stakeholder management as well. We also decided that we needed to test very quickly. So because Netflix actually, I think, do this quite well, we took their interleaving principle, which they're very public about. We're borrowing it. And basically ensure that rather than traditional A/B tests, we would be interleaving to make sure that every one of our customers were exposed to one of the algorithms at any given time. And just to kind of bring this to life a little bit, so this is 4 different formats, so 4 different ways that we presented the content to individuals. And I just want to, let's have a quick poll, very quick. Who thinks that A was the best performing? B? C? Or D? Cool. So most of you said B or C. The answer was D, which is really great because I think it drives the point home that you really need to have your heart in the right place, as it were. You need to have empathy for consumers and know that actually the role that you play in their life, you have to be able to recognize what that role is. And sometimes that means that what you think is best for consumers isn't. And actually that you need to test, you need to learn and then adapt your strategy, which is exactly what we did here. So obviously, just to be clear, it doesn't mean that B or C weren't good for some customers. It's just predominantly in our test when we were doing this, it was good for that group. So basically, what is it? What is James? It's basically, say you have all this context about your customers or about our readers in this case. And this could be things like, what is their churn propensity? How deeply engaged with our product are they? How broadly engaged with our product are they? When are they engaging with our products? Who are they? Et cetera, et cetera. And then that's going into our model, which is calculating probability of clicks on any given article in this case for content marketing. We've got a multi-arm bandit, which then chooses which format to use in an email for a user. It's executed, and then depending on what the user does do or doesn't do, we adapt. And then it just kind of goes back into a cycle. Obviously, you probably wouldn't be talking about this if it was a total failure, but I like showing this because it shows how over time we were effective at driving more and more engagement amongst our consumer base with this approach. Because I think, one thing I didn't mention was why we segment as businesses. This idea about personalization being personal and about individualizing our approach, why does that matter? Why is it individualization that drives meaningfulness with consumers? I think because we've all experienced getting an email that's not relevant to you. I once got an email from ASOS that was promoting bikinis. I'm obviously never going to buy a bikini. Maybe you guys don't know that actually, but I'm not going to buy a bikini. That's the point. And I think that mistakes like that just drive this idea that brands don't really care about their customers. They're just interested in making more and more money. And although of course we are a for-profit business, as I'm sure many of us all are in this room, there's something to be said for actually having this, what some people might say is quite a soft approach to, what is like a very business-oriented task. But for me, I think it's the proof is in the pudding, which was effectively that we were able to reduce churn by 49% in our test groups by taking this approach, by actually investing in a technology which was going to be individualizing for each of our customers, what we were going to say, when we were going to say it, and how we were going to say it to them. And we were doing this at cost and at scale without compromising on price or product. So for me, I think it's something that is widely applicable and something that I love talking about, because I think there's a huge applicability for many different types of businesses. This number, 3-to-1, is one of my all-time favorite ratios. Why? Because I'm often taken to task, as I should be, by the way, by our finance function at News, and I kind of have to justify like why I'm doing what I'm doing. And often, I get questions like, why does sending an email matter? Like why does sending this push message matter? And I kind of have to go through this process of like explaining like the basics of CRM and what have you, which is fine because they're just doing their jobs, right? But 3-to-1 is our overall return on investment for having data-driven approaches to customer marketing. So for every £1 we spent, we get £3 back, and that's over the last 3 years. And this is what at the start of the presentation when I mentioned that we've had a 10 percentage point reduction in churn. I'm pleased to say that none of our competitors can claim that. And it's because our approach to the way we manage customers, believing that actually having empathy for consumers matters, and ultimately that investment in data-driven marketing is the right thing to be doing. So I promised that I'd give you some pointers if you want to build your own AI for the sort of 40% of you that said you're planning. Focus is key for collaboration, so it's ultimately about the customer. You can't lose sight of that. You can't get embroiled in politics. Just stay focused. Fast experimentation allows for fast results and insights. Lose what doesn't work fast, so don't be afraid of failing. In fact, failing is a positive thing. Embrace it with gusto. I would say establish a baseline across experiments to gauge effectiveness. This sounds super basic, and I appreciate that I'm talking to a group of what I think is made up of analysts, at least partly. But we did make that mistake, and it was costly. So CRM is a long-term game, so relationships aren't built overnight. Another thing that I have to remind our finance team about. Personalization in comms means more than just knowing your customer's name. So it really is about anticipating, about knowing what you're saying, when you're going to say it, how you're going to say it. And ultimately, AI can't replace passionate marketeers. I would replace that, say, like maybe business people. Ultimately, none of this would have been possible without a team of dedicated experts, And I'm a big believer in this idea that AI is going to replace tasks, not people. Just to finish off, because I know I'm just about over, for us, the combination of a great human-led product and AI-driven customer marketing has enabled a positive impact on our bottom line, and also for consumers that drive significant results. For us, it's machine learning that's made it possible, but it is customer empathy that makes it valuable, and it's how we are aspiring to redefine what it means to be a premium news brand in the 21st century. Thanks, guys.